Hey everybody, this is Justin Anderson. I'm on Sheets account, but this is in fact Justin Anderson doing the live stream for Lock. I was wondering if you could get enough people on here to play me at 3K, because from what I'm seeing, I'm getting projected at like 7x, and I'm not so sure whether I'm going to get there or not. I also see them are going to be about 20% owned. Um, so that's the first thing. I want to add. I'm going to share my screen over here. Excellent. See, Mark's kind of working in the winds, working off on the side. I'm going to share this screen, I think.
Good evening, Eric.
Oh, there you are. I just added that. Okay. I haven't since you joined us. I've never launched the thing, so I got all confused when all these different screens came out here.
I got you.
Um,
I'm just here in the background producing the show. That's all.
oh, okay. So I was just saying that uh, the main thing that I'm looking at right now is just all kinds of just bizarro value in the NBA, and I'm still waiting on a little bit of news. Like Goga Bitadze is he is still questionable for Indianapolis or Indiana, whatever you want to do, and that could open up even more value, which is very which is adds to the already ridiculousness of the slate that started with Giannis being ruled out just as we were launching our early preview video. Um, so I know that we don't start until 7:30, but I figured Bobby's been starting these things at about 15 minutes before me. By the time I kind of get there, Bobby's already gone over kind of stuff, and I feel myself kind of catching up. So I'll take today to just kind of get first in there, just to kind of show you guys what looks good before Bobby kind of makes heads or tails of it. And again, these can all change when new news comes on in. But if you see up on the right here, I mean, I'm rating all these guys. Actually, this is by points per dollar over here.
Let me try to get a.
Yeah, there's a better way to do that, right?
Yep, I'll flip them that way.
I forget what it is. Yeah, and this is for those. This probably is not very few people's first go around in the stream or with TrueDFS, but this is what one of the things that you're going to get on the premium TrueDFS subscription is access to these sheets, which rates everybody by different metrics, not the least of which is points per dollar and sheets value score. I have a good ownership projections as well, and kind of a minutes projection also. And when I rate these guys by points per dollar, I mean, you get Tyus Jones, who is all the way at the top, and at 8x, that's a pretty tough fade. And then you have this Justin Anderson dude, who, whenever you have a guy who rates to play over 30 minutes, and even though I have a projection here of 28 minutes, but the last two games he's played more than that. So it's even though he might be bad or he might have low usage or whatever. The fact is he's on like a 10-day contract from the G League. I'd like to think that he's gonna try to make the most of that if he gets in there. Even as something as primitive as the DK app will show that he's had more usage than he ever he's been having a lot of usage down in the G League. I would think that they brought him up here. They need him. They need him to play minutes, and if they're going to put him in for minutes, it's not like that guy who, and you think about like even college and high school, the guy doesn't play too much in reserve. Sometimes when that guy gets in the game, they just want to do enough to not make a mistake, just to like not piss the coach off. But you have a guy coming from the G League with nothing to lose anyway. I have a feeling that if they do put him in, he's going to try to do something. And when you have a guy that's going to try to do something at 3K, that's important. Now, all this is also kind of, I don't want to say dependent, but it kind of helps that if Halliburton's ruled out, and so when Halliburton gets ruled in or out, I'm probably gonna have to redo everything and see how this all kind of shakes. But if you also get Halliburton out, then you got guys like Dwayne Washington is even a better play than he already is. Not to mention, and if Goga is out, then Terry Taylor becomes even a better play than he already is. So there's a lot of news that's going to be coming out of Indiana as we approach lock. Let me just When is that game? Is that the first game, 7:30? I want to say that it is, um, but I'm not sure.
Cleveland Toronto is the 7:30 game. The
Okay,
Indiana
so
Memphis game is at 8.
it's not okay. It's not till 8. Okay, so again, as Bob would probably stress, let's think about how important anything from the Cleveland Toronto game is before we worry about anything else. And I don't, at least at this point, have too much in that game. So that's a good news, is that if you do come up with something fringy, you could probably just avoid it. The only thing I would come up with is maybe like Fred VanVleet, who's kind of fringy. So if you do run any kind of builds and you get to him, I don't know if that's such a great idea. What I want to do is also, and we can do this as more of a series when we actually launch it fully, but we've already started to launch SaberSim within our within TrueDFS. And so I am
Sheets, something's going on. The resolution of that is not as good as it
oh,
normally. I don't know. I'm going to just try to play with some camera angles for a second. That's too far away that they can't see it, but when we had it zoomed in, the picture, okay, that looks better. It was just maybe your signal was just deteriorating for a second.
So I'm going to do a little more just stuff within SaberSim, and I am going to start to answer some questions specific to how this stuff works, because so here's one of the things, and this is going to be a constant learning process for everybody that hasn't used this. And I'm going to actually be helping Bobby and Rody kind of learn how this whole thing works. And I'm going to give an example from the Discord today. One of our really loyal subscribers who's been using my projections and doing hockey quite often has been doing really, really well. And he posted in the Discord something that I felt I had to address, in the running the risk of messing what's working, right? I just want to kind of I want to talk about something about what SaberSim does and kind of what it doesn't do. So typically when you use either a lineup HQ or Fantasy Cruncher or whatever it is, what you do is you put your projections in, or you let them use their projections. You put your ownership in if you want, and then you run it. Okay, and you run an optimizer, and all it is it's a calculator. All these things do is what you tell it to do. And so, like when you run an optimal, you run like 150 lineups and say, Roto Grinders lineup HQ with no other thing going on. Just say, give me the best lineups. It'll just spit out the best, the lineups that project overall the best, right? It's not going to factor in, how those lineups grow together. It's not going to factor how they correlate. It's not going to factor, you don't want to play 7 guys from the same team all at the same position, like for example, right? So what you can do on sites like that, like Fantasy Cruncher and Roto Grinders, is you can be very intelligent about it, and you could put groups together to help your lineups make more sense. Remember, all these things are calculators. All they will do is exactly what you tell them to do. So if you don't tell them to do anything except give you the 150 best, combinations of 8 players, that's what it's going to give you. But now, if once you start telling it to do other things, then it gets a little bit smarter. Like if you say, I only want to play, I want to play a maximum of 3 guys from this team. You tell it to do it, and that'll do it. If you don't want to play Buddy Hield alongside of Tyrese Halliburton, you put it in there, and it'll build lineups with those rules in mind. And the idea behind one of the ideas behind SaberSim all the way from the beginning was to try to make that something you didn't have to do. Okay. The idea was that, yes, you could go through all these NBA games, NFL games, and you could write like a zillion different rules. But the idea behind the SaberSim simulations is that it automatically does that for you. It keeps correlation data of all of these players such that if Tyrese Halliburton does this, then Buddy Hield is more likely to do that. And if Buddy Hield does this, then XYZ is more likely to do that. And if you're going to play, like, say, hockey lineups, it's already factoring in the fact that if XYZ from a team scores, it's more likely that XYZ gets an assist. And it's already been kind of factored into its simulations, so that when you run a SaberSim build that's based on simulations, the concept is you don't have to do all of that work with the groups. Okay. And now what's happened though is that SaberSim is, they kind of, I don't want to say they caved in, but they didn't really cave in. So many people are so used to this other way of doing things about like creating their own groups. They said, listen, can I create my own group? My own group. SaberSims, you don't have to create your own groups. We do it for you in our simulation. Well, yeah, I want to create my own group anyway. And finally, after a couple of years, SaberSim's like, okay, fine. You want to create groups? Fine, you can create groups here. So in the last like 3, 4, 5 months, it's created this situation where you could, like any other optimizer, you could create groups. So now what people are doing though is, and I'm going to talk to SaberSim when they come on here, is they're doing two things at the same time. Like K9, I don't know if it was K9, but one of the guys in the Discord was saying that oh, he does a great job. He's used SaberSim. And what he does is he puts the projection in SaberSims, runs lineups, and then he sets a filter saying he wants to make sure that he plays only guys that are on the same even strength line or the same power play line. And I'm not saying that it's bad to do that group, but I'm just saying that you're just doing the same thing that SaberSim is doing for you anyway, And I actually brought that to, the SaberSim Discord, a couple of experts over there, and they said, yeah, if you're going to do that, you probably want to reduce the correlation sliders a little bit over there. We'll get into a little more of how that kind of goes. So remember, when you're using SaberSim, you're using something different. It's not just optimizing. What it's doing is actually simulating games with all that correlation stuff kind of in mind. Now, one thing I will also say, if we're talking about SaberSim, I'm going to continue doing this, is that they don't have simulations for every sport. In other words, most of the sports, yes, they run simulations, but some of them, they just kind of behave as optimizers, and you just kind of have to know which ones they are. I think actually now, I may speak it up term, because they did actually redo the NASCAR ones to be simulating, and the same thing with MMA, I believe. So actually, I do think that all the sports they support, I think, are all based on simulations now. So that's why, I mean, when you run, when you put stuff in the SaberSim optimizer and you run 150 lineups, you will not get the same lineups as you will in Fantasy Cruncher or in RotoGrinders HQ. You just won't, because it's just based on doing something a little different. I'll give you an example. I'm going to do this based on exactly tonight's hockey, because I haven't run mine for hockey yet. So here's the main hockey thing. Now I am going to actually upload them from my file, which I just keep a little bit differently for everybody else. So I apologize, Mark, if I'm not doing it the real way that everybody's going to be doing it.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
But
You're showing them behind the scenes.
I'm uploading it based. I'm uploading this this file. And one thing I have to do is I have to just kind of change this to be ownership over here. I don't know why it makes me do that, but so I'm replacing its ownership with my ownership, and we're all good. I always click exclude unlisted players, because sometimes what you get, like when I give you projections, I only, just so you guys know, I only project players that most everybody in industry agrees are kind of worth projecting, right? And so what'll happen is there'll be some guys that I kind of don't project, and maybe SaberSim will project. I see Bobby there. I'll let him in a minute. So I always put exclude unlisted players. So when we hit save, now you see it's replaced regular projections with my projections, regular ownership with my ownership. And I'm going to build my lineups. Now I'm playing 30 lineups tonight. So I'll play 30 over here. And so here are like the sliders, and I usually leave them the way they are, which is kind of their recommendation. And I really do feel is that they look, you have to trust somebody. And I just feel as though the work they put into this, these default sliders are probably better than me tinkering with them at the beginning. Okay. There's some sports where I'll kind of screw around a little bit based on the slates, but I would really start to just embrace their sliders for at least a little while if you're the first people to do this. Now, again, here's another thing, like min uniques. This is something, Mark, that you don't need to mess with, because this has already been factored in. You know what I mean? Like to their lineups. It's going to produce the lineups that give you the most amount of upside. And it's not going to worry about unique. So I don't think you should either. So we'll click on start new build. And one thing that's kind of cool is that hockey actually takes a little bit longer than most sports. And I think the reason why that is because correlation is such a huge deal in hockey with the stacks and stuff. It probably just takes a little bit longer to sift, to siphon through all those different simulations. And similarly with baseball, you'll find actually that baseball takes a little bit longer than basketball, because again, it just takes a little, the correlation data just a little while to get through. So this is now you see it's building 500 lineups, and there's a reason for that. Even though I'm only playing 30, it's giving me a pool of 500 to kind of choose from if I decide to screw with it. Like if I decide to like increase exposure or decrease exposure, it'll automatically, remove that from the pool. So right now what I'll do is I'll do just first kind of like a sanity check. I'll look at this. And of the 30 lineups, first I'm going to look at the stacks. So what types of stacks? Now, look, not surprisingly, about 50% plus of stacks are 4-3s, which are the most usually very highly correlated stacks. And then the next group are the 5-2s. Now, if in fact I wanted to, to screw with this, I could. And then the next thing I'll do is I'll look at teams and see if anybody's really highly owned. I get San Jose. This is actually pretty spread out between San Jose, Carolina, Vegas. And then within players, it'll see if I'm like really, really heavily owned anybody else. Now you'll see here that it does list, what the even strength line and power play line is for everybody. So my point was that K9 or whoever it was saying that he sets a rule saying that I want only guys on the same even strength lines. But the point is that you don't need to do that, I don't think, because they're doing it for you whenever you set this to be a highly correlated line. Okay. Now again, so you could screw with this. Like you could see, you could eliminate everybody that's on a third even strength line, even from this thing. Because look what you could do. You could sort this by even strength line up to 4, and you can go down to 3. And what I can do if I felt like it is I could just X out one of these guys, and then it'll automatically redo all the lineups. But I don't want to do it because they have he's a third even strength line, but it's also number 1 power play line. So probably want to keep that. Jordan Spence. If I don't feel like playing Jordan Spence because I don't want a guy third even strength, the second power play line, just boom, X him out, and all of the lineups just kind of changed. Okay. So I'm probably going to at least start by just replacing the lineups that I have with these. Now with hockey, there is one other thing that you have to do, because one thing about hockey is it's kind of sneaky, but you might get like goalie changes literally like 5 minutes before the game starts. And so you have to just make sure that those guys are actually listed as P as probable on the DraftKings app, or, look at our tweets. I'm sure it follows it. But the good thing is with hockey is that, and this is very nice of DraftKings, by the way, they price the backup goalies the same as the starting goalies. So you could just replace the guy if it comes down to it. It's not like you're going to be SOL, right? So that's kind of like my daily, I guess, like lesson on whatchamacallit, on SaberSim. So now with Bobby in, I want to let him in.
You don't need to let me in.
So tell me your thoughts on all this value. I mean, we're waiting on still a Bitadze, I presume. Where are you at with this whole slate?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I'm going to assume that Bitadze, as of right now, my guess would be that Bitadze and Halliburton sit.
Oh, really?
I don't have any reason to think. There's no reason for them to play on a back-to-back for a team that's tanking. Like, it's just would be stupid. And the only reason they let Buddy Hield do it is because I think they finally want to let him free. So my guess is that those guys probably don't play, and that's going to make Dwayne Washington somewhat Terry Taylor, potentially Kiefer Sykes if they somehow weirdly started him, and then even Lance Stevenson interesting. So it's hard to assume that, but it does. I heard what you were saying. I was listening before when I was getting some prep done. I don't know. Like I'm having a hard time. What's most important to me now is I don't have the interest in the first game like as much, because I would like to see the starting lineups. Even if we get news that those guys are out, I do want to know whether Kiefer Sykes is starting, whether Washington's starting, who's starting, whether it's Smith or potentially Taylor. Like I think it would be Smith, but they've done weird things with their starting lineups. And then I'm curious to see what they do in Memphis as far as who's starting. I would assume it'd be Zaire again, but like Kyle Anderson with no Brandon Clark there is going to play more minutes. That's interesting. I just don't feel as much interest in the first game, even though I could see Van Vliet being a good play. I still, because OG Anunoby is out, I would say Siakam, Precious, and Birch even are all really interesting against a team that plays big. That's the only thing that I'm thinking about value-wise. I think it's better to wait, but maybe squeezing in one of those three. I guess my preference would probably be Boucher. And Anunoby's still on the projections that I'm looking at for some reason. He shouldn't be. I mean, he's doubtful, so I'm assuming he's not going to play. If he does, we'll know about it before the first game. And then on the Cleveland side, the only thing that I'm really that interested in is Darius Garland, because I just think there's better opportunities to open up for value with Lamar Stevens. I think Evan Mobley's fine, but I don't think that I just overall I'm leaning more away from that game. Brandon Ingram officially out, which is nice. And then we just got news that Larry Nance Jr. is going to play.
Oh, wow.
So for I don't know where that puts him in what they're going to do or how much he's going to play or anything like that. But it does. I did have some like long shot interest in Jackson Hayes. I did have some long shot interest in I like McCollum still. I don't think it really affects that much, but I maybe like Valanciunas a little bit less and Jackson Hayes a little bit less than I did. But I just thought that just came across.
Well, talk to me about Justin Anderson.
We've seen the ups and downs of Justin Anderson, but the thing is, this team doesn't have. If they take Halliburton out, there's not a whole lot of usage from any of these other guys, even including Buddy Hield. He's not like a high usage guy in general, although he's been more so with Indiana. But Justin Anderson has been starting for what's his name? I can't even Duarte and all their other injuries. I mean, like you see what you're going to get from him a lot of the time. It's going to be nights like last night, 31 minutes and 19 fantasy points. And then you might sometimes get games like the previous game where he's played 36 minutes and put up 34 fantasy points. I think he's a solid guy to have in, assuming that he does start, and assuming if either of those guys are out, he's a much better play. But that would make everybody else a better play depending on who they started. So, which again, just speaking to it, like from a strategy level, you should just probably not be too focused on the first game.
The only guy I would even think about in the first game anyway would probably be Van Vliet.
I like Garland a lot too. Those are the guys. I mean, more the value in the first game. Lamar, you can make an argument for Lamar Stevens if the slate stays the same that he's a good long shot play. You could make the argument for Okoro as a long shot play. You can make the argument for Birch as a really good long shot play, especially because again, once the projections update, they will have it and have Anunoby out. You're going to see why Birch will look like a much better play against the big front line. And I'm okay with all of that, but you would still have Thad Young in the mix. It's just with all the bodies, I don't know if I'm as high on it as I would be if we had the Indiana news. Now, if we do have the Indiana news, that's a different story. But I think the Indiana guys are going to be simply just too good to pass up if those guys are both out. The only reason why they might play is because they don't have that many bodies left. So
I'll bet you 50 cents that Bitadze plays. I'll give you 2-1.
I'll take
50
it.
cents.
Did you just get some news?
No, I'm not a hustler, for Christ's sake.
I know. I'm
He's just questionable every game, and he always plays.
Mm-hmm.
He just always plays.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So usually,
Well,
no,
there's one bit. There's that's actually narrative. Hold on.
He doesn't play a lot of the time, actually.
No, hold on.
What's the narrative, Sheets?
I'm gonna tell you in a second. Wait. Hold on a second. 1 second.
I'm going to answer some questions while you're doing that because
sure.
Porzingis or Joval on DK. I think it's now Porzingis for me. I don't like that Larry Nance will get some center minutes. Gary Trent was ruled out as far as I know since the day it started. I didn't have Gary Trent out, but I guess officially it's always good to have news because I thought Chris Paul wasn't going to play. Now he's playing, so that makes Devin Booker off my list. Although kind of an interesting long shot play that we wouldn't have played before. But I don't think I could do it. I will play. I will play some of the Garland. The guys who are the priorities for me tonight are Tyus Jones, Jokic, Holiday, Levine. I know those are all pretty obvious, but that's sort of like your core, like core. When I say core, when I list it on SaberSim and when I talk about it on our site, I'm going to have, because I'm a tournament player playing multiple lineups, like 15 guys that I'm deciding between. My core is going to be larger than I understand the way other people use core, but I want to make it clear the way that I'm going to use it, unless it's too complicated, in which case I'll just list my top 4. But I feel like you'll get more information if I list, 15 guys that I'm going to be mixing in and out.
No, mine are not going to be core. I decided that. No,
Go ahead,
my basketball or hockey or baseball, whatever I put on there, they were going to be called Chiefs Hoodoos. That's what they were going to be called. They will not be core plays. They will not be chalk. They will be Sheets Hoodoos. There will be nothing. My plays will not be my.
You can have both, by the way. You can do both really easily.
Oh yeah, but everybody's got core. Everybody. I don't need to tell you who my core plays. Everybody knows who.
All right.
Oh, good question by Bill Ross. I think the answer is yes. I'm not going to play Devin Booker tonight.
I'll have him like mixed into a tiny bit of lineups because it's a small slate, and I think you can play upside guys. Boy, I don't like my bet on Denver earlier today as much as I did before.
Sheets, for your consideration, I ask you to call your core plays the triple indies in honor of.
That's not bad.
That's
No. It has to have some. It has to be able to survive. You know what I mean? Like no one's going to remember who Triple Lindy was. There's going to be other Triple Lindies like down the.
Sure.
This year, Triple Lindies was last year's. You weren't even here. Was last year's Dylan Windlers. You know what I mean? So there's always stupid guys that Eric plays, but they're always different. So we can't call them the Triple Lindies. You could definitely call them the Hoodoos.
I'm going to answer Kevin's question again, which I just did essentially, which is you don't know the answer until the starting lineup comes out. That Justin Anderson will become a better play. He's already in play as it is.
Well, this is an easy one. I have an easy one.
Well, wait, hold on. Yeah. Let's answer the question because that's the whole point of what I'm saying is that until the starting lineup comes out, you really don't know. Because if Kiefer Sykes is starting at 3K, then you're going to have to consider some Kiefer Sykes. If Terry Taylor is starting at 3.5, you're going to have to play. You know what I mean? So It really depends on how it shakes out. It may not depend quite as much because they might have another body or two that literally I don't have them with one, but I think that people are calling people up from the G League every day. But if they're really down to like 9 guys, even if one of those guys sits against Memphis, first of all, they're going to get smoked in this game. This is not going to stay close. I know I've been wrong on a couple of these lately, but I've also been right on most, a good portion of them. Not all of them. It's been a little bit of a rougher stretch, but this game, I don't know how it stays close against these Grizzlies. Like, I really don't get it. I don't know how they do it. Which again means more playing time for these guys. The problem is, does it mean Lance Stevenson time? Does it mean Kiefer Sykes time? Does it mean Dwayne Washington and Justin Anderson? Probably some of all of them, and some of those pairing together if those guys are out. But I can't say in order of who's higher, Washington or Sykes, without knowing if Sykes is starting and Washington isn't, or if Washington's starting if Sykes isn't, if Taylor's starting instead of whether it's Jalen Smith or it wouldn't be over Brissett, but it would be over Jalen Smith, which they've done before out of the blue. So those things are all really relevant. But your natural thing would be you want to play. You probably are going to want a couple players from their side at least, and I would be mixing in those guys without knowing the starting lineup. I would say Justin Anderson would be a pretty obvious one. I would say that the ones that might be forgotten about a little bit because they're a little more expensive are Brissett and Jalen Smith. And I think Lance is always a good tournament play, and Kiefer Sykes, if he's starting, whether he's starting or not, I would play some Dwayne Washington. So I guess Washington and Anderson, not knowing whether and Taylor, I would play some of without knowing who's starting, but you're going to know who's starting.
Well, can we talk about some of the good players?
Well, yeah, real quick though, I'm going to answer KTW's question about Kyle Anderson or Connaughton on DK. For me, it's Kyle Anderson. I think there's more upside in his range in this matchup. I don't love the back-to-back coming off of, another injury or anything, but Pat Connaughton is just it's a little bit of a wild card play. Like you can't Jordan Nwora might be, I don't know. He's much cheaper and he's probably got a similar, I don't know, range of outcomes. I would say we don't know. Even Milwaukee's starting lineup is going to be interesting. Because if Nwora is starting, his 16-minute projection is going to go up to 26 or 28. And I don't know. It's just hard to know without the starting lineup, which, again, just leads me to delay a little bit until we have the starting lineup. Because I think if you make these decisions too early in basketball, that's where you lose yourself. And then you end up doing one of two things. You overreact to late information or you don't react enough to late information. And both of those things happen. Like last night was a good example, for if you want to go backwards, Trey Mann and versus the other 5,200 versus the obvious, what I thought, I thought Davion Mitchell was, like the best play on the slate, as I said, and I didn't understand why he was only 50 and whatever 50 and 50% owned on my sites. I was like, how is he going to fail? But people jumped over to the other ones anyway. So that's just what I'm saying. So just it's good. It sucks to wait. It sucks not to have answers, but I can only answer based on what our information would be. These are totally unique lineups that have never played together before in some cases. Anyway, Sheets, sorry about that. Go ahead.
What I was going to say is that, all this value, like we always say, like, why are we doing it? Like, what's the reason? So let's talk about some of the good plays. So some of the good players. So let's start with Chicago, right? We'll start with Drew Holiday, who I really think is unfavorable tonight. I just, all those guys, and with Giannis and Middleton out, I mean, it's going to have to be like, they're going to have to blow him out, I guess, for that to fail. I think, I don't know. And then likewise with, I guess DeRozan's out, right? That's why all these other guys are popping for Chicago.
Yeah, that's why I said those priorities at the start. That's when I jumped.
Yeah, and so between LaVine, I mean, I love these shooting guards, right? So between LaVine, Drew Holiday, and what's his name? The late game. Someone else. Not Booker.
What? Denver? Jokic?
Jokic. Sorry. So between those two and Jokic, I mean, those are all really, really strong plays.
Yeah, that's what I have as well. I think that Bobby Portis is a really strong play. They are just trying to get Brook Lopez back into his shape. So Bobby Portis, actually, it's weird. I don't mind him off the bench, but I would prefer that he was starting, and I think he'll be projected to start, but I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't start him. I wouldn't be shocked that is another starting lineup that might change. You know what I mean? Like, and I think they're ramping Brook Lopez's minutes back up. So that's another value. But the Holiday thing, if you're not playing him, I do think playing a Bobby Portis, a Grayson Allen, something like that, maybe both of those guys together is probably a smart move. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I do think you're going to want some lineups that have ways that, and this game could get really, really, really ugly. Like, I mean, even last game, Drew Holiday was like perfect from the floor and still didn't put up a big fantasy game because the game, they just blow people out. Like, and even with these guys missing, I still think that's what will happen tonight. It is a Bobby Portis former team, but it's not back in Washington. So.
Everybody's his former team.
No, he's only played for like 4 teams. It's not. There's other guys who played for like 11 teams. Bobby Portis is a different type of guy too. Bobby Portis and DeMarcus Cousins are very different, types. And thank you for the nod on my Dwight Howard call. Unfortunately, one of those situations, classically Sheets, where I just didn't listen to myself enough. And
what happened?
I don't know. He put up like 35 or 30.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
I called out on everything. I was like, this is my play. It was on my list of my 5. I mean, I include more than 5 guys on that.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So that was too bad. The thing is, with Sam Stu, I want to correct on something. Nwora is not in the doghouse. They just got 3 of their top 7 guys back. So he just falls by the wayside. He's not in a doghouse of any kind. It's just the situation hasn't allowed him to play. Who's he going to play over? Giannis, Middleton, Holiday, Grayson Allen is the only option. You know what I mean? And even that, why would they change Grayson Allen, who's in their starting lineup and is one of the best 3-point shooters in the league, which is good to have with Giannis. So thoughts on Kobe White? Love it for tournaments, especially long shot tournaments. Really, really like the Kobe White idea tonight. I think that's a cool move because I don't know. We don't know what the Bulls are going to do. DeRozan plays most games. You'd think that they have Patrick Williams back, so maybe White's not quite as sexy as he was before. But I think that he's going to be low owned. There is a good chance that I think he could get serious runs. So I like Kobe White. I think that's a really good idea as a long shot play. I might include him even if I feel too chalky in one of my regular ones because he's not going to get owned much with Tyus Jones, whatever value we get from Indiana. They're not going to play Kobe White also.
Yeah, my narrative, by the way, with Goga was misinformed. I thought for some reason that Goga played for Gonzaga. I was going to say he's going to take the day off to watch Gonzaga play the Sweet 16, but he didn't play for Gonzaga though. So
yeah. Who did he play? I don't think he.
No, he didn't play at all. He was a European player.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of European players, what do you think of Porzingis tonight?
So I do like Porzingis though. So the other guys who I've, other than my main Jokic, Tyus, Holiday, Levine, with some, again, Levine, Vooch, or White. I do have White as on my list for that. I don't mind Vooch at all either, by the way. We have Bobby Portis, who I talked about a little bit. Darius Garland. I do like. I like Porzingis, but it feels a little. I'm a little nervous about it for some reason, but I do like him. I'm going to have right now I've got him 20%, but I feel like that could easily slant depending on what value opens up. And then there's the Precious Boucher Birch, which I'm still deciding what I want to do. And I'm going to wait to see the final set of starting lineup because it's the first game. And then there's the Taylor, Smith, or Brissett if we get Goga out. And then Justin Anderson, Washington, Stevenson, and Kiefer Sykes.
I just redid some projections, which are now kind of leaning towards Halliburton playing, I guess, a little bit. Again, it's all ridiculous because if he's out, then they're all going to change. If he's in, they're all going to change.
No, he's gonna play. Most likely when they say expected to play, it's usually almost always a play. And every now and then.
So just so you guys know, if you refresh the projections now, they'll look totally different. All those Indiana guys that I had up at the top 20 minutes ago just don't even exist right now.
Yep. So now that changes everything. So now we're back to maybe though thinking about that first game a little bit. So what that actually does though is that means I'm probably going to be playing a good portion of Birch, Boucher, or Precious in my lineups.
Actually, it's so funny. Actually, I lied. That's not even true. I'm still getting these guys. Anderson and Washington are still viable.
Yeah,
I see that. Okay.
Even if Batate plays, those guys are still viable. He's been
that game is at 8, right? So it's the second game, right? It's after the Toronto game. What I'm getting, you like you already went through the Memphis guys, right? I like Melton at 5K.
I'm the biggest Melton supporter there is. The guy just goes nuts every time they have one of these games and never projects. And I finally gave him a projection tonight for the first time ever. He's literally the same thing all the time. When what's his name's out, they always say, they have him predicted at 20 minutes and that Tyus Jones will play 28 and that they'll play 2 minutes together and basically stay away from each other. Other than that, now he's projecting so highly. He's going to get ownership tonight. So I think he's solid. I don't think I'm getting to anyone except for Tyus in a heavyweight on Memphis at the moment, but I have them all as blah, fine.
Do you think, are you going to force, I don't want to say force, but are you going to lean towards stacking any games?
So the Bulls game, if you wanted to take a little stack, it got a little less interesting to me because I was thinking about really going for it and playing the Levine, Vooch. You'd have to eat up all your spots. Some sort of Jackson Hayes and McCollum, but those little minutes from Larry Nance are just enough to keep me off of Hayes as much as I would have been. So if I was going to stack a game, it's oddly the game that I like in some ways. I don't like it the least. It's Milwaukee and Washington. It's just Washington feels like, every night we're playing a real guessing game with them. Unless you want to, you could do the normal thing, the Porzingis and the Neto, who some people are going to play. And I actually think that there's arguments for all of these guys. The problem is there's a legit 7 guys, or actually 8 guys, I could make a really good case for. When that happens and you're playing there and they're playing 10 bodies, it's kind of like they all project well. And you could easily swap each of their projections by 3 points or 4 points, and it'll make the other guy look like an amazing play. But if we keep getting what we're getting out of them, most likely 1 or 2 have the big game. I'm just having trouble picking those 2. I guess you could play a Porzingis Neto if you wanted to. And they're all fairly owned as well. So I think I would side with Avdia amongst the other ones. Avdia and Hachimura, I guess, would be the ones I would prefer. I like the idea of playing the unknown Satoransky in this spot, especially because of the blowout run too. Although that could go to Ish, you never know. Although they could play them together because Satoransky can play the 3. So I kind of like the Satoransky, Avdia. I actually like the bench guys a little bit, and even a little Ish. But I don't know in terms of a game stack. I guess if you play Porzingis with 1 or 2 of those guys with Holiday, Portis, or Holiday Lopez, or Portis. Well, probably not Portis Lopez. Maybe throw Connaughton in. You could do something like that, or I actually like Grayson Allen in this matchup a lot. But again, even with all these guys out, they've got 13 available bodies in Milwaukee.
Does Theonis still play?
What? I mean, not in any relevant manner.
Okay. He used to he got run last year when Giannis was out.
Yeah, I think we got to not just completely write off last year because these teams are totally different teams.
Right.
I mean, they're the same bunch basically, but they have all a very different role. Grayson Allen wasn't there,
Right.
All their minutes, and then Javon Carter wasn't there, who's probably their best defender. Well, their specialty defender. He's not their best defender. They have two awesome defenders starting. Jalen Smith is out, who was not
for Indianapolis.
Okay, so we're going to play Terry Taylor probably. He's going to become a priority.
We're probably going to play Batadze also.
If he plays, he's a true game time decision. When they announce that, I'm much less likely to think he's going to play. But that's just me. Doesn't that funny? We drop all these guys with the questionable sheets.
Dude, it's going to be a full $1 for you if you're right.
They hit it. They take us out that he goes from questionable to probable to out. Like it went the backwards way this time.
Who's this?
That's what happened with Jalen Smith just now.
Probable.
They announced him probable like just before, and then he's out.
Somebody once tried to tell me that somebody once tried to tell me the weather reports. When someone says partly cloudy, it's the same thing as saying mostly sunny.
Can I throw one weird, and it's a little too early for this, but I actually think Milwaukee is doing this for a reason, like not just to give their guys rest. I genuinely don't think that, they're always going to play to try to win, of course, right? But is there a chance that, that's what I keep thinking, what if you get this late, right before the game, 10 minutes before the game kind of news that they're just going to sit Holiday and Portis or, also, or something weird.
Wow.
Just because, they benefit from losing. I understand that they're not afraid of the Nets. I wouldn't be either if I were them. But they don't need to play them in the first round. You know what I mean?
Oh, this is big. Dwayne Washington birthday game?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Rashad. That's an awesome call. And by the way, we got the Kyrie birthday game last night. I like the Dwayne Washington. And Jalen Smith actually plays they don't cross over positions, but just anybody who's out who gets minutes is a huge plus for us for the guys. So Washington and Taylor are the guys who I'm going to go towards a little bit. Achua that's a question mark, right? Guys, I really appreciate all the comments. It's just so much easier if I see a question so if it's you like Achua, like I said, I think Achua, Boucher, and Birch are all very, very interesting.
I actually think Clay just wants you to say bless you after he says Achnua. More dad jokes for the stream. Sorry.
How come Justin Anderson keeps popping up on our faces, Mark, on the back screen?
Because I announced myself as Justin Anderson.
He came in as Justin Anderson.
When I tried to come in, so that makes me feel like we have to play Justin Anderson, I guess. So.
Well, that was my point. I was just watching one of the other shows, and the guy that was on there saying, if you play Justin Anderson, you're going to lose. You know what I mean? And I'm like, wow, is he like that hated by everybody? I don't know.
At the point when you came on, Cheats, he was 20% ownership projections and better than 7x, right? So that's a guy that some people are definitely going to play.
Right.
Regardless of what his name is.
I'm one of the whatever. I don't know the guy's name. The guy that shows up on RG from time to time. I think he might have been an ex-player or whatever. He was saying, "Oh, you can't play Justin Anderson's like the worst. If you play him, God bless you." I'm like, whoa, all right.
Well, no, but there's some logic to it. But the truth is, everybody's basing these numbers off of totally different teams in different situations. Like when you're playing with the Sixers and you're playing with, Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris, how are you going to get any usage?
Well, not only that, but I mean, he's coming. What I was saying in the lead into the show, I don't know if you were listening, but the guy's on a freaking 10-day contract. He's going to freaking just go nuts when he's in the game, I would think. I mean, why wouldn't he?
Yep.
Just to be fair, latest Saberson projection has Justin Anderson's ownership up to 30, and he's 8.7x now. So they've got his points and his ownership going up. So just throwing it out there.
We'll see what happens. We'll see. That's an 8 p.m. I will probably, you know what? Because I'm going to try to get to our 8 o'clock thing. So I'll probably sneak in at maybe back my computer 7:30 and try to do an update. So
yeah. Awesome.
I have to go in just a couple of minutes for dinner, but I'll be back.
Okay. Well, I'm going to answer real quick a couple of people's last questions, and you can.
So wait. So Mark, do I have to stop anything, or I could just disappear?
So it's an interesting question. The last 2 times Bobby has left, we've killed the stream inadvertently on either you or me, I think, on Monday, Tuesdays.
I'm just gonna let it go. I let it go on anyway.
Okay. Yeah, just turn your picture off. I can do that for you. And just mute yourself and we're good.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, so I'm going to run through some of the other stuff. Barton's still okay on FanDuel. Yes. If 3 Pacers too many depending on the news. Again, does depend on the news, but I do think it's not too many now. Barton, we got Caruso. You guys, if we just put names in, we really got. Please put a QQ in front of it. Please put something.
Put a site. Put a site that
Yeah, anything like, because if
put who you're thinking as an alternative.
Go right past it sometimes. Especially as we start getting more people in the thing, we want to make sure we would just streamline the process as fast as we can. Barton or Rui, that's a weird thought, I guess. Like, I don't really, because they're different positions by so much. But what site? I'm guessing FanDuel. I don't know how that would factor in unless you have more to build. So just let me know a little bit more about that one, Dunbar. Appreciate it. Halliburton or CJ on FanDuel. That's a good question. I think it's CJ for me. The best spend ups are Holiday, Jokic, Levine are the main ones. The other ones you're mixing in are Garland. Portis is not a spend up. Portis, Porzingis. Those are sort of my main spend ups tonight. That's how I'm doing it. But again, it's Dunbar. So what's the 2v2? Because it can't be a 1v1 for those guys. So just tell me how the 2v2 is working, or what else is in the mix. Because it's really hard to think about it like that. Like I can't go through. It's a shooting guard versus a power forward, small forward.
Utility spot? Is he?
Oh no, it can be. I'm sorry, my fault. I forgot they did make Barton again small forward eligible. They made Rui small forward eligible.
There you
go.
go.
The season they were both not. My bad. That's my bad, Dunbar. So at small forward, I think that it's really close. I'm playing both of them in the first lineup I built, if that helps at all. I think Barton is probably the one I would. That's really close. I think the right answer is probably to play Rui. Would be the numbers say play Rui, but I don't know. I kind of like the Barton upside. I think I would. You're also getting some extra edge from leaving the 400 on the table. So I think you're probably, if you want to try to win the tournament, I think that's probably a good way to go, because I think they're going to project really close, and they do project really close. I can tell you that. But I think that Rui will project better, and I think Barton is just as good of a play and will be a little lower owned, and we'll leave the 400 on the table. Is Brook Lopez on DK too risky? I don't think it is. I think he's totally viable tonight. Not one of my core guys right now. Again, I'm still waiting on the other starting lineups to really dictate who I'm playing. But as of right now, I think Brook Lopez is absolutely in play. Any love for Brissett on FanDuel? Yeah, I do now. What do they leave his price at, though? Because I didn't double check it to start the day, because he had been so crazy price different. 59 is a little bit more than I'd want to spend, but with these guys out, there's definitely enough upside in this game environment for him. I guess that's where I would. Yeah, I mean, let's find out about Batate. If Batate is out, absolutely 5,900 is okay. But I don't think I love the play, to be honest with you, at 5,900. I think I would rather be looking. I'm going to be playing some, the other cheaper guys. Even Terry Taylor is 4,500 over there, which no one will play him, and they'll play him on DraftKings. This is if Batate is in. If Batate is out, I want to go for it a little bit with the Taylor thing. And Lance should get a boost. Like, all these guys are getting boosts because they're down. They're 9 bodies that I have them with, and that's crazy. I think 3 of them is totally fine. I think you're going to start with 2 of them. And is there any other questions? I think we mostly caught up on everything. And I am probably going to have to go build my lineups pretty soon, but I've got a few more minutes if we have anything else come up.
I just wanted to say thank you, Bobby, to everybody out there for all the SaberSim love. You guys have done an amazing job. Everyone's picking up packages. People are upgrading their True DFS subscriptions, getting themselves some SaberSim with us, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, we really do, guys. I really, and any other question, I'm going to do my best to be there to help as much as possible. It's and Mark has been great about trying to be, to respond to everyone. And we really appreciate it. We're excited about this next chapter, and it's really going to be cool. I think once we, we're still going to get streamlined. We're in day 2 of it, but things are going great, and we really appreciate all the love. Don't forget to liking all that stuff before Rody says it, because I always see Rody's doing his core plays at the moment for DraftKings, so check that out. Mine are up there, but they're going to change shortly. So keep that in mind. My plays were done at the beginning of the day, so I'm gonna change those. Actually, I'll do that right now as we are on the show. Why not? But we really do appreciate all the love and everything, and thanks for bearing with us through some early day times for our site, and now we're starting to get to the good times. All right, I'm just gonna go through.
Yep, and more features already that we're already working on with SaberSim. So there is a full screen mode that's not exactly where we want it to be right now. They're working on that on their end for us, so that should help, because obviously when you go to the native SaberSim site, for anybody that you guys use it, you get a little more screen real estate than you do with our header above it. So there'll be an option. We'll let you all know when it's there, but there'll be an option to go full screen, which will be different than the way full screen works today. So that's going to be useful. We're also talking to them. They don't currently save uploaded projections for their partners, which is what we are. They save, the fantasy point projections, but they don't save ownership projections. And Sheets' ownership projections sometimes are the big difference for us. They're a big differentiator because he gets ownership right, or just he gets a different view of ownership that we don't always get from some other places. So we want ownership to be something that we can set up there along with the points and have you guys look, and just gives you another option. It gives you another line to compare with SaberSims.
Yeah, and I'm updating some core plays for me right now that are guys who I didn't expect at the beginning of the day. Again, these might change on starting lineups, and I'll probably be editing lineups after 7:30 when that happens. Just want to give that a heads up. We did just get some news though. Anunoby is available on Thursday, and that's going to take away all my interest on Toronto. Period. Done. End of story for Toronto for me. Maybe they'll end up in one of my 150 max type of tournaments, but I'm only playing 20 lineups, I think, in that. Cavs are going to give their starters heavy minutes, and their rotation players heavy minutes. So that they're saying what we kind of already know about them. But they're desperate to try to. This is a huge game for seeding purposes, which is why they're going to play. What's his name? Which is why they're going to play Anunoby, who has been doubtful the whole day. Which doubtful, as you guys know, usually means 99% out. So Cleveland, I think you Garland at 40 plus minutes. And I think Garland is now becoming another priority spend, which again, you can't play them all in the same lineup necessarily, but Garland, Jokic, Levine, Holiday are the guys for me. So I also think that you can maybe give a tiny uptick to a long shot Kevin Love play. One of these guys could end up, the Kevin Love with 22 minutes could end up with 30 minutes tonight, 32 minutes possibly, depending on how things are going. If that happens, that means if he's putting up 40, that means he's playing well with them. And Mobley could go down in the same respect, and Markkanen could go down in the same respect, because they could lose minutes to Love if Love got hot. So I kind of like that as a tournament play. I like when the teams say that, because they should be going for. We all kind of know it, but teams don't this early, but 10 games before, you don't usually start going with the 40 minutes plus for their players unless you're Tibbs. And I'm just looking at, I'm looking at a couple different sites projections and just comparing them. It's pretty interesting because I like that all of a sudden, the top plays are very decidedly different on SaberSim, and I actually agree more with SaberSim here. There's certain guys that are showing up for me, are showing up as value that I'm not as crazy about, like Serge Ibaka, but it's certainly fine. And Satoransky, they seem to like as well. They're a little lower on Terry Taylor than some of the other sites are, just worth noting. But there is, no matter how you slice it, there's plenty of value. It's just a matter of the ones you're choosing. And so I'm just going to do this. I update my list here. Dwayne Washington is a little lower. Yeah, he's a little lower on there, but I still like the Dwayne Washington play. I think it's a little bit longer shot than I'd liked it before. But if we get Batatse out, that just changes the rotations. And yeah, so I think that's where I am. Let me make sure. They're a little lower on the Veen than some other sites as well, which is just not a huge deal. It's like a couple point difference, but just some things here. And Garland, I'm going to make sure to have in there, because I think that, let's see the minutes. Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Sorry. set my things. And now, if you remember, you can go and my core needs to be updated. Save projection.
Yeah, I flashed them up on screen for both FanDuel and DraftKings. I showed people Roadies and yours side by side.
I didn't up yet.
I put no, but I'm saying I put them up just to show people where to look. I'm not going to leave them up because we're giving away all SaberSims projections too, so I'm not.
Oh yeah, that's fine. No, I appreciate it. Yeah, that's totally fair. If I edit, I have to do it through. I'm trying to. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we do have them on my core now. Okay, perfect. It worked. Yeah, I'm still learning how to use this part of the site too as well. All right, Porzingis versus Mobley on FanDuel. It's Porzingis for me. That's it. I can't wait for baseball to start. I'm excited about baseball too. I like my guys to stay a long time, and especially in baseball more than other sports. I'm okay with the turnover in basketball and football. I really attached to the Dodgers. I'm sad to see Seager gone. I'm more sad about that stuff than I am excited to see Freddie Freeman. The Dodgers are going to be loaded. I mean, they're loaded again as always. Favorite Memphis plays tonight. Tyus Jones, pretty much end of story. Everybody else I have as completely fine, but not my plays. Not the guys I'm playing. D'Anthony Melton would be my next guy if I was not playing Tyus Jones, and then I would consider everybody else, but unless I get stuck with them, I don't think I'm doing it. And I just updated my core, so we should be good to go. I need to go build my lineups pretty soon. Everybody goes down here. All the Toronto guys are now out of play for me. That's just the way I'm going to treat the slate, especially with news still to come and starting lineups still to come and Batatse health still to come. That's what I'm going to do. So I would delay having your builds and leaving them at 7:30 unless we get starting lineups from Milwaukee, Washington, Indiana, and Memphis before then. And for that matter, the Pelicans and Bulls. In case the Pelicans get crazy and decide they want to start Larry Nance or something. All right, guys. Anderson or Connaughton? It's Anderson. We did that question already. And with that, I'm going to say thank you again for all of you guys' loyal work and on the back end side of Mark and everything. And thank you to everybody out there for supporting us, and really happy with the way things are progressing. So let's make some money tonight. I will be in Discord. Good luck, everybody.